Hi, and welcome back. This is segment 2 of our look at Medicaid myths. I'm your host, attorney Michael Potter. Now, in our last segment, we started by looking at some of the ways to provide for options for dignified senior care and how to pay for that, whether it was a veteran's benefit or Medicaid. And we began to consider some of the terms and early myths about Medicaid. In this segment, we're going to look in more depth at some of the other common misunderstandings about Medicaid and the truth behind them. Now, here's one that's a common misunderstanding, that you have to give away everything you've ever worked so hard for all your life in order to qualify for Medicaid. That's not true. There are some rules to be followed and some guidelines that have to be enforced by the Medicaid authorities. However, if you plan properly and you act well in advance, you can still maintain assets and have them transferred or become exempt and qualify for Medicaid. Here's another one that's often misunderstood, and that is that you have to spend down everything you have on health care in order to qualify for Medicaid. That is really a half-truth. There is some spending that you can do, but the spending solution so that you are qualified for Medicaid is not entirely all on health care. You can do things that improve or repair your home, provide access to things like wheelchair ramps and specially modified vehicles, etc., that you can do in the way of spend down that will allow you to take care of your loved ones and at the same time provide for yourself so that you do qualify for Medicaid. We'll look at that more closely in the solutions segment. Now, some people believe the myth that if they transfer any assets at all, that they will be rendered ineligible for Medicaid, and that's not true. The fact is, you can transfer assets, but timing is important and you have to follow the guidelines. That's where we come in. We can show you how to do it right, do it at the right time, and transfer it in such a way that the assets that you transfer for the benefit of your loved ones under the right timing renders those assets inaccessible by Medicaid and keeps them preserved so that you don't lose everything to the cost of nursing home care. Here's another common misunderstanding where people believe that if they go into a nursing home, they have to wait 5 years before they can even apply. You can apply on day one. Whether you're eligible or not will be partially determined by your income and assets, what you may have transferred within the previous 5 years, and so forth. Now, there are some exceptions to those rules, but again, you want to work with someone who's legally qualified to give you the proper advice, who is acting as a fiduciary for you and will help you get things done in a proper fashion. Man, oh man, here's one that can really cause problems. You cannot legally hide assets from Medicaid. You have to declare them even if they're not earning an income for you currently. If you hide assets, you may be rendered ineligible for Medicaid, and you could even be subject to criminal penalties. So don't hide the assets. Transfer them properly, taking advantage of the time windows and the kinds of solutions that I'm going to show you in our next two segments. And then you'll be in fine shape. Just follow the rules, do it with advanced planning, and you'll be okay. Now, don't fall victim to the common misconception that only the income of the nursing home spouse is going to be considered. In fact, Both spouses' incomes are considered when looking at eligibility. However, the community spouse, the one who's still living at home, their income will be considered primarily to determine the community spouse resource allowance, which is the amount that the community spouse can retain while the other spouse is in the nursing home. Boy, here's one that I always find amazing when I run across this, that there's no need to plan in advance. Exactly the opposite is true. The farther in advance you can plan, the better off you're going to be, the more options you'll have, and the less restrictions you'll have on transferring assets so as to protect your loved ones and to protect yourself for eligibility. You know, it's been said that timing is the difference between a hero and a fool. And I'm always surprised at the number of families that wait until the very last minute when mom has to go into a nursing home tomorrow, and now suddenly they want to know how to protect their assets from the cost of the nursing home. You know, the farther in advance you plan, the better off you're going to be in terms of your options. You'll have far less restrictions and far more ability to transfer assets in a way that will protect those assets from the nursing home if you get planning early on. If you wait until the last minute, the number of options that you have are severely restricted, and you'll find yourself regretting that later, especially if your children have to pay for the nursing home because you failed to plan early enough. You know, one of the best things you can do, whether you're planning for yourself or if you're planning for your parents, is to have a private consultation. Typically, we do that at no charge. We sit down with you, we talk by phone or video conference or in person, and we look at the options in the particular set of circumstances that you present to us. We consider with you timing, eligibility, costs, and strategies that you can implement so as to protect assets from the high cost of nursing home care. Here's one that arises all the time where people mistakenly think they're going to lose their Social Security if they apply for Medicaid. In point of fact, you've earned that. You've earned it through a lifetime of contributions all through your working life. And now, in your senior years, you're still entitled to your Social Security benefits. They're not going to go away just because you applied for Medicaid. In fact, there may be a need to coordinate benefits so that Medicaid and Social Security are coordinated together to pay for the cost of nursing home care. But that doesn't mean you're going to lose your benefits. They're just going to be applied in such a fashion to help pay for the cost of nursing homes. Now, in our next two segments, we're going to look more closely at some of the legal strategies that are Medicaid compliant and will allow you to transfer assets in a timely fashion so as to protect those assets from the high cost of nursing home care and at the same time benefit your loved ones. I look forward to seeing you next time. I'm attorney Michael Potter, and I look forward to hearing from you.